Hello, Bobcats. Mrs. Wilhite, we're still in 5th grade math. We're in chapter 4 still. We are now in lesson 6. Divide by a 2-digit divisor. So we're still dividing because it is a 5th grade standard. I'm hoping at the end of today's lesson you'll be able to solve problems by solving another problem. So it's going to be multi-step. Why are you learning this? Why are we practicing this skill? Well, it's a 5th grade standard. And also when you're saving money to buy something, when you're spending money, being able to divide, you have to be able to do that. So you know how much money to save each month or how much money to pay each month for an object that you want to buy. So this is a skill you will use in your everyday life. What do you already know about perseverance? To me, this word is about not giving up. There's going to be challenges in your life that cause you to work really hard. And today's lesson is about solving multiple steps. So it's not just quickly solving a problem and then writing the answer. You have to show some perseverance today. So from my experience, I know that sometimes when you work really, really hard and you don't give up, it leads you to something. It leads you to something that's worth the effort, that's worth it. So today, as you're working on your problems, doing multiple steps, don't give up. Show some perseverance. Keep with it. Okay, our steps are always the same when we're doing those word problems. We want to understand, what do you already know from the problem? What is given? What can we learn? After you read the problem and you see what you understand, make a plan, create a table, organize the information that's given. Then use that table to solve. Finally, is it reasonable? So we'll understand the problem, create a table with what we know, try to solve it, and then look back. Does it make sense? All right, let's learn this strategy. Miguel earns $50 each week. He spends $10 each week and saves the remaining amount. How many weeks will it take until he has saved more than $300? Step 1, understand the problem. What facts do you know? Well, I know that Miguel, he earns $50 every week. But he's also spending some of that money. He spends $10 of it every week. So I know that he doesn't have all that 50. What do I need to find? Well, I need to find how long it will take Miguel to save $300. If he makes $50 every day and he's spending a little bit, how long will it take to get $300? I can solve the problem by solving a simpler problem. Well, Miguel saves $50 minus 10. So he saves $40 each week because the 10 is already spent. If I divide 300 by 40, then I will know how many weeks it's going to take him. And I've already set up most of the division problem here. So now I just have to figure out how many times 40 divides into 300. Well, I know that 4 times 7 is 28, and I can add my 0. So 40 times 7 is 280. So if I subtract that, there's $20 left over. So Miguel will need to save for at least 8 weeks. Because 7 weeks, he's only going to have 280 saved, right? So I need to check and see if it's reasonable. $40 times the 8 weeks is $320, and he's looking for 300. So 320 is greater than 300. I know I have the right answer. Practice the strategy. Melissa estimates that she watched 104 movies over the past year. On average, about how many movies does she watch per month? Well, I know there's 52 weeks in a year. So step 1, understand the problem. What do I already know? Well, I know that she watches 104 movies around about in 1 year. I also know that there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's going to help me solve. Well, I know that 52 divides into 104 about 2 times. And if I multiply 52 times 2, then I actually do get 104. So she watches on average 2 movies every week. But the problem says, how many does she watch per month? Well, there's 4 weeks in a month. And if she watches 2 movies every one of those 4 weeks, I think she watches about 8 movies every single month. I can check and see if my answer is reasonable. If I multiply 12 months times 8, I should be close to 104. If it's not close to 104, then I know I don't have the right answer. Well, 96 is pretty darn close, so she watches on average about 8 movies every month. All right, well, let's apply the strategy we're learning. Mr. Santiago has a flight from New York to Paris that covers a distance of 3,640 miles in 7 hours. If the plane travels at the same speed per hour, how many miles will it have traveled over 4 hours? Well, I know it's traveling 3,640 miles. So that takes 7 hours to travel. So if I divide 7 into that number, I'll know how far he travels in 1 hour. I'm trying to figure out how much he travels in 1 hour because that will help me with the multi-step, the next step in this problem. So let's go ahead and divide 3,640 divided by 7. Well, 7 divides into 36 5 times. With 35 and 1's left over, I can bring down the 4. How many times will 7 divide into 14? Well, that's 2. There's nothing left over. Bring down the 0. 7 won't divide into 0, so I can go ahead and put a 0 here. So I know that that airplane travels about 520 miles every hour. But the problem doesn't ask me how much the plane is traveling every hour. But I can figure out for 4 hours. I would need to do 520, which is 1 hour, and times that by 4 to see how far it would travel in 4 hours. Well, I surmised the answer to be 2,080 miles every hour the plane will travel. Okay, and if I multiplied 2,080 by the 4, if I divided it by the 4, I would get 520. So I know that 2,080 is about right for the 4 different hours. All right, Josh watches 720 television shows in a year. If he watches the same number of shows each month, how many shows does he watch in 5 months? Well, I know there's 12 months in a year. So if I divide 12 into 720, I can see how many shows he watches in 1 month. Well, I know 12 times 5 is 60, but I think I can get a little closer. 12 times 6. Let's try to see if that'll work. 12 times 6 is actually perfect. That's 72. Okay, and then there's nothing left over. Bring down the 0. 12 divides into 0 times. So I know that he is actually watching 60 television shows every month. But remember what we're working on, perseverance. We're going to keep going. We need to know what that is in 5 months. Well, if I take the 60 television shows and I multiply that by the 5 months, I know that in 5 months he will watch about 300 shows. So remember, today's lesson's about doing more than one step. Figuring out how many shows he watches in 1 month, so we can then multiply to figure out a total in 5 months. We're still going to apply the strategy. Mr. Thomas is delivering bricks to a construction site. He delivers the same number of bricks with each delivery. The builder has ordered 3,096 bricks, and it will take 8 trips to deliver all of the bricks. How many bricks will Mr. Thomas have delivered after 7 trips? Well, I know he's going to deliver 3,096. and that's going to be taken over 8 separate trips. So if I divide 8 into 3,096, I will know how much is going to be delivered in one trip. If it took 8 altogether, if I divide by the 8, I'll know how much he delivered in each of those 8 trips. Well, I know that 8 divides into 30 3 times, and that's 24. 8 times 3 is 24, so I can now subtract 24. There's 6 left over. And I can now bring down that 9. Got to figure out how many times will 8 divide into 69. Well, that's going to be 8 times, because I know that 8 times 8 is 64. There's 5 left over. Bring down the 6. How many times will 8 go into 56? Well, that's 7, and that's a perfect 56. So there's nothing left over. So again, our job today is to do multiple steps to persevere. And I know that Mr. Thomas will deliver 387 bricks with each trip. Okay, but the question, it asked me, and because there's a question mark, I'm going to go ahead and underline it. That helps me. How many bricks will Mr. Thomas have delivered after 7 trips? Well, there's a couple of ways to solve. I can take 3,096 and subtract 1 trip out of the 8 and get a total. Another way to solve is to take the 387 for each trip and multiply by 7. I should get the same answer. It doesn't matter which one you would rather use. It's just different strategies to find the answer. 16 subtract 7 is 9. 8 minus 8 is nothing. I have to borrow here. 10 subtract 3 is 7. So I think after 7 trips, he will deliver 2,709 bricks. I'm going to multiply to see if I also get that same answer. Well, that's 49. 8 times 7 is 56, plus 4 is 60. Bring up my 6. 7 times 3 is 21, plus the 6 is 27. I determine the answer is Mr. Thomas will deliver 2,709 bricks after 7 trips. Let's review the strategies. Well, Kobe read 108 books in a year. If he reads the same number of books each month, how many books does he read in 5 months? Well, I have to take 108 and I have to figure out how many books does he read every month. Well, 108, and I know there's 12 months in a year. So I can divide by 12, and that'll tell me how many books are in each month. Well, I know that 12 times 5 is 60. I know that 12 times 10 is 120. So it's somewhere between 5 and 10. I'm going to go ahead and make a guess and see if it works. Well, I think maybe 9 books. Let's see if 9 works. 12 times 9. Oh, it is 108. That works perfect. So I can go ahead and subtract 108. Colby reads 9 books each month. Well, to figure out how much he reads in 5 months, I can do 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9. Or I can do 9 books every single month times 5. And I understand the answer to be Kobe will read 45 books. All right, Bobcats, it's that time of day. What did you learn? Well, in summary, I learned that I can divide and that I can do multiple steps. But what I'm really hoping that you realize is sometimes you have to stick with problems. You have to do multiple steps and persevere. And sometimes when you do those multiple steps, it'll lead you to somewhere that you need to go. So stick with it. In summary today, I learned that sometimes problems take longer than you want or take a lot of steps, and it's worth it. Stick with it and get the right answer. Thank you for your attention, Bobcats.